So today we are going to work on a push dagger that, as you can see, the preform is roughly 8 inches long. It's a tiger stripe Armenian. It's got some really beautiful color in there. I've already ground and abraded the sides of it. And I want to go over a little bit of preparatory work before we get going on this. As to some of you guys that are new that have asked me Facebook or through email, go through a little bit more of what I do for preparation. And I think the most important thing is to start about tool preparation, because I'm going to use these 3 flakers to one is going to be for pushing my flakes. As you can see, the edge of it has already been ground. I hammer it out, and then once I hammer it, then I'll put it on the grinder and I'll grind to get a 90-degree edge at the end of it, and making sure that it's all, prepping this is really important, because these edges right here, where you're seeing, these are going to bite into your braided edge, and the better this width is, the thicker your flake pattern going across is going to be. So this is what I'm going to use for driving my first run, my first pass. And as you can see, I've had this flaker for easily 15 years, and it's been through the ringer. And the next thing I'm going to use is going to be using this steel point, and this is what I'm going to use for my second pass. This is a little bit more refined tip. This is going to be for my second pass, and I'll get into that and how we set up for a second pass. And then lastly, once I start pushing my notches, I'm going to use this magic little contraption. One side is a horseshoe nail. The other side is a cement nail. Cement nail is very, very durable. It's not going to go anywhere. Versus the horseshoe nail is going to bend and be a little more gracious. I've wrapped this in medical tape just because it helps my hands hold on a little bit better. So these are the 3 tools that I'm going to be using and setting up for this run. Now, to go over this, what I'm going to do to prepare the edge is, it's important that we go and whenever you're doing a point, always go down about 1 inch. Always go down about 1 inch before you really start. And the reason being is because you don't want to blow out. I'm going to try to stick to the center line right here, but your first couple flakes, as you're starting to figure things out, you don't want to go crazy on it. You don't want to blast through, and it's going to destroy the other side of your preform. So I'm going to start shooting flakes about every 1/2 inch. And I'm going to do this on both sides. Now, I do things a little bit different. I do things a little bit different than most individuals, because I'm going to go back and forth. I'm going to start with this flake, and then I'm going to shoot to here, and this, and here. And what it's going to do is it's going to cause the flakes to meet, and it's going to make a really neat back and forth pattern and you're going to see a very defined center line. So that's what I'm going to do to get up and going on this. I'm going to do the demonstration. I'm going to run one side, and then to save time, I'm just going to do the other side off camera, and then I'll come back and show you the second pass and then clean it up. All right, so I'm all set up now. I use a lap pad. That's just the way I've learned. I've been doing this for about 20 years with this same way. I know a lot of guys use palm pads. I'm not a palm pad guy because I like keeping the preform as far away from my eyeballs as I can. So I'm going to go into it with my flaker, and again, I'm going to start by just doing little flakes. And you see how that little flake, it terminated right here on my center line. And I'm going to go back, I'm just going to rock it on the other side, hit it. Now what happened here is, and you can see this other one, it went right here, okay? So I'm pushing the flakes in at a 45-degree angle to my center line. Go down a 1/2 inch, pop it. Roll it, pop it. And what's happening is it's going to create a nice line right down the center. And again, by doing this, what I'm really doing is I'm able to control the overshoots, because the overshoots are actually terminating at the edge of the other flake. And so it's going to give me a nice back and forth zigzag pattern. And again, keeping this roughly overshot a little bit, but the nice thing is with this, I'm going to be able to go back, clean this up, clean that up. See how there's a little bit of coverage there? With this next flake, it all disappears. Isn't that cool? And again, we're back to our center line, and you can see that center line right there. So I'm just going to go down here. With each flake, I'm going to put a little more pressure. And because I've done this back and forth zigzag pattern, it's going to terminate, and it's going to be very nice and very clean as I roll down the rest of these, 5 inches or so. Once I get done with that, I'll come back and clean up the tip, but I'm not really worried about the tip right now. See, and again, we're just back here, 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 here. And we're really sticking to this center line. And once it gets done, it's going to be a very pretty looking tiger stripe Armenian dagger. Sticking to that 1/2 inch. Okay, now that I'm about done on this side, I'm going to flip it around, and I'm going to keep going from the other side. Again, just pushing zigzags back and forth. So that shot a little bit too far, but that's okay because I zigzagged it back. And guess what? Right back on my center line. I get a lot of questions about what kind of width I prefer on my preforms. I really like a 5/16. I found any more than a 5/16 is going to leave it too bulky. Cleaned it up. Shoot the final edge. Okay, so now we have this whole thing cleaned up nice. I'm going to come back here and do itty bitty little flakes now. Just itty bitty little flakes without blasting through. Again, just little tiny guys. And just like that, we have this first pass done. And as you can see, the line right here because we went back and forth in a zigzag pattern, we stayed right on that center line. Now the rest of it is pretty easy, because what we're going to do is we're going to go and use a razor blade right there. Pop. If you have any other little guys hanging around, you can just pop them off with a razor blade and keep it simple. But there you go. There is the first pass on this beautiful Armenian tiger striped. All right, now that both sides are done, we've ran both sides. They're all cleaned up. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this edge, and because we have all these peaks and valleys, right, from going across. And now we're going to clean these things up. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to abrade this at a 95-degree angle. Now this is where guys do things a little bit different, okay? Some guys do flake over grind, where they grind the entirety all the way over, and they create a nice concave, you know, so it's nice and bowed out. There's pros and cons to that as the plane flies over my head. What I've found with mine, I like the durability of having more mass. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to abrade this out to about there. So I'm only going to go in maybe 3/8 of an inch. And I'm going to, of course, you know, go to my center line on both sides. And it also cleans up. So it's going to be on this side. I'm going to remove, again, I'm going to go about 3/8 in, and I'm going to clean this up. And then the next time I turn on the camera, it's going to be all cleaned up all the way around, and then we can go ahead and show the second pass. All right, we went ahead and we ground it down, made sure I have a nice fine edge. And the reason I'm doing a fine edge here is because, and again, this is just my way of doing it. I'm did it all the way around, which you can kind of see. Again, I've ran it at a 45-degree angle on and just kind of ground this thing out, and hopefully you can see some of the color in here because it's just fantastic. But what we're going to do is now we get back and we do our second run. For this, I'm going to use this magic tool, which again, the point is, as you can see, it's kind of dulled out. It's not super sharp. The sharper your point, the more, the tighter your flake is going to be, the smaller your flake is going to be. So again, with this is just a step down from this. So first flake was done with this copper. Second flake is going to be done with this steel. And what I'm going to do with this, because everyone wants to start at the end, it don't really matter. But again, I'm going to hold it, and I'm going to go, and I'm going to start, again, just running little flakes. And as I run little flakes, it's going to follow where I ground it down. And it's going to stop right there. And the reason I like this is because I have two separate defined flakes. One goes all the way across to the center line, and then the second, it just kind of cleans it up a little bit. And again, I'm doing every ½ inch. I'm just going to work my way down. Okay. Just working my way down. And what it's going to do is it's going to clean this up into a very nice looking point. And again, I have a lot of surface area on the top. It's easier to do it that way, in my opinion. Some guys spend way too long doing their grinds. I don't. Because again, it's not really that. I'm not going for that concave, you know, look. I'm going more for durability purposes, and I'm just going to work my way down. Once I get about down here to the edge, I'm going to flip hands. I'm going to flip directions and just keep going down to the edge. Just like that, I have this second run done. Now what I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to start again, 1/2 inch from the tip. And I'm just going to start working the edge. Making sure that I'm covering and getting all my grind off. Every 1/2 inch, just working my way down. Doesn't take to be Superman to do these. These are just nice little flakes, only little 1/2 inch flakes. And again, it's all about the angle of attack on this. For me, I'm resting on the top of the edge and then I'm pushing straight down. I'm not doing He-Man stuff. I'm not going crazy on it. I'm just doing little flakes. Okay, and go back. I missed a little spot right there, so I'm going to go back and take it off. Flip it around. You can see where it got me. All right, and just like that, second run's done, except for the point. So what I'm going to do with the point, I'm just going to go back, little flakes, nothing crazy. I don't want to go He-Man on it, because again, I want to keep my point defined. Now we do the other side. How do we do the other side? Well, the other side, 2 different ways to do it. Either way, no wrong answer on this is, one, you can go through and abrade the top again, give yourself a nice rough surface, and then push your flakes the opposite direction. Is it really important? No, not really. Is it going to change everything? No, not really. It's going to, but some people, that's the way they learn how to do it. They like it, so that's just the way that goes. So for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my flaker again, and I'm going to rest it on the peak. Just on the peak. And what it's going to do, this is, again, finishing up the second pass. I'm looking at it as I'm flaking, hitting the peaks. And we're not going to really worry about the jaggedness right now, because that's going to happen on our third pass when we clean it all up. So don't get too wound up about pretty at this point, because we're still just working our way through. Just resting it on that peak, pushing it down. And what's going to happen is we're going to start getting zigzaggy. But it's okay, because we're going to clean that thing up here in a minute. So I'm going to finish running this through. Sticking to my peaks. And this is getting exceptionally sharp. It's not as sharp as I want it to be, but it's getting pretty dang sharp. So now I'm going to flip over. There's my peak that I left off with. I'm just going to keep working it down. one side is done. I'm going to run the other side. Again, going about 3/8 in. Just going to be working those peaks. All right, going to go ahead and run the rest of it. As you notice, I haven't really touched the base of this yet, which that's okay. We're going to work on the base after we get this whole thing done. Just running it back and forth. Flip it around, pick up right where we left off, hitting the peaks. All right, second pass is done, and you can see that this is pretty zigzagged. That's okay, because our third pass we're going to do that. We're going to go back and finish cleaning up the top. Itty bitty little flakes. Nothing crazy. All right, and just like that, our second pass is done. Okay. Third time's a charm. Now we're going to go through and we're going to clean this up with this horseshoe nail. Horseshoe nail is very, very friendly, and I'm just literally doing little guys. I'm looking at it. I'm going to clean it up as best I can. And when I say clean it up, all I'm doing is I'm looking to see where the rises are, and I'm just taking them down just a little bit. And that's going to create a razor edge. I'm working it back and forth. Some areas don't need it, some do. I'm just working back and forth, taking off these little peaks. Yeah, that's a sharp one. That is a sharp one. Does it really matter what kind of obsidian you use? I get that question asked quite a few times. Yes and no. You want to make sure that it's a good, pure obsidian that isn't full of impurities, you know, ash pockets. The more ash pockets you get, the more crazy it's going to get for you. So I do get asked that quite a bit. I'm starting off. What's a good way to start? I always recommend start with glass. You know, you don't need to pay a fortune for obsidian when you can go and down to the dollar store and find a chunk of glass that's 3/8, 5/16 thick, and you can clean it up and do that. And so here's your point now. After your third run, it's very cleaned up, again, before and after. And to save some time, I'm going to turn the camera off and clean up the other side, and then I'll be back. So we're all cleaned up. We got it all cleaned up, and we're going to now start working on the back. This is one of those things that really depends on what your vision for what it looks like is going to be. I'm going to go back to my first flaker with the copper tip. Going to run my flakes up. Going to be pushing, 3/8 of an inch. Nothing silly. We don't need any massive anything massive. I'm going to cave it in a little bit. And you're going to have guys that are going to tell you X, Y, and Z about knowing every name in the good old Overstreet handbook. If you're not familiar with Overstreet, I would Google it. Just type in Overstreet and arrowheads, and it'll come up with the book. It's pretty much an encyclopedia, buyer's guide for what prices look like. But since I'm going to make this a push, I'm not going to put a stem on this, so it's going to come up to about here, and then it's going to have a handle, and it's going to be a massive push knife. Is it too big? I don't know. It's big though. All right, guys, take care. I'll show you a finished product when we're done.